So recently I've been doing a few videos about sword collecting for beginners, so giving tips and some considerations on auctions and places to buy swords and these kinds of topics. And for some kind of cosmic misfortune, this period coincided with me buying my first fake sword, which you probably saw, the British 1845. And so I figured, well, I can give tips and general ideas, but why not come up with something a little more practical that can help you guys, so who's starting their collection, but also obviously me, because or more experienced collectors too, because we fall into these mistakes as well from time to time. And I figured out why not make a checklist. So I come up with a few points that are very quick, very simple, and I'll create a downloadable version of it, a PDF or something that you can save, and so you don't have to just memorize what I'm saying. You'll have the document that you can keep for yourselves and modify as you prefer. Anyway, this is going to be a checklist with a few points to keep in mind before an auction. So these are general points more regarding the auction house, the auction, and kind of general preparation, I would say. And then there are some points that you should kind of start automating from lot to lot. So you should quickly be able to evaluate if a certain sword coming up at auction fits the criteria you set for yourself. Of course, these are starting points. They're not objectively true, or they're not absolutely true criteria. So feel free to switch them up, modify them, and even suggest any ones you think I should have added in the comments. If you find this video useful, there's a thanks button. Feel free to make a donation there or subscribe. That's always really useful for the channel. And as we go towards the 1,000 subscribers, it's really important that I kind of mention that. So anyway, let's get into the points. And actually, I should have probably mentioned there are 3 categories in this section rather than 2. The first one is actually mindset points. So if you watched the video on my fake sword that I bought, where I kind of discuss my mindset there, this is really important. It's really important to get into an auction with the right mindset. So the first point you want to check is, are you in a good mindset? To successfully navigate, let's say, an auction, you probably want to be relaxed, calm, willing, wanting to do it, having the time. It's not something you should probably be doing on your phone while you're busy, and it can happen that a lot goes while you're grocery shopping, but it shouldn't. So make sure you check with yourself if you're in the right mindset. A second point, and this again has to do with mindset, is to make sure you aren't approaching things in a superficial and kind of condescending way. So it's an auction, there's competition, there's a limited amount of things going for sale, and you are not infallible. So no matter your level of experience, you need to take it seriously. Are you doing that? Good. Aren't you? Maybe rethink your participation. And with the mindset issues out of the way, this should be a fairly quickly self-check. We have the general aspects of participating in the auction. And the first one is, are you registered? This may seem like a really stupid point, but it happens fairly often that you save something maybe 2 months before when you first see it online, and then you kind of know in the back of your head that that auction is coming, and on the day of, you remember, you try to join the live auction, and oh, registrations are closed. Maybe they closed the day before. And now you're out and you can't buy whatever it is that you had flagged. So are you registered? Make sure you register on time. There's the issue of fees. Are you aware of what the fees are on the objects you're buying? What platform you're buying from? Every auction house has different auction house fees, and they can vary by like 10% or more too. So knowing what you're going to have to pay over the asking price or the closing price of the lot is really important in determining how much you can bid on a certain object, because what you save on bidding, you may have to pay in fees. And connected to that, have you informed yourself on shipping? Some auction houses have in-house shipping, which is cheap and easily available and easy. Some auction houses have in-house shipping that is not easy and not cheap. Some auction houses simply do not ship. And these are really ones you need to be careful with because specialized packing and delivery service, especially when they know it's swords or antique weapons or collectibles, it's going to skyrocket. You may end up paying hundreds of euro just for a sword to be shipped, for a sword that maybe is worth nothing. Like it could be a fake like the one I bought. So be really careful, make sure you know things. Contact the auction house beforehand if you can, because they usually answer. It's in their interest to sell. So make sure you have all your ducks in a row before you dive in. Now, assuming you've checked off all of these points, the next one is budget. How much can you afford on this auction? And how much can you afford in general, which means have an overall budget of how much you can spend, because you can save 100 swords, but you're probably not going to be buying them unless you're a billionaire. But also have a general idea of kind of how that breaks down. Because if you miss out on a big piece that you were going to buy, you may have a lot of budget for the other things you kind of chose, or vice versa, of course. And so know your budget, general and specific, as far as you can, and have a priority. What is the object you absolutely want to go home with versus what are the things that are like nice to have if nobody bids on them, but you can take them or leave them. And now we move into the more specific details of single lots. So all these points I'm going to mention now, you should kind of have them generally clear in your head for each lot you want to participate in. It's not said that you have to do it lot by lot, because lots of times they go really quickly, but be prepared before the auction starts. So the first thing is, do you have clear pictures? So in many cases, auction houses will have a bunch of good pictures. In some cases, they're going to be horrible. Horrible lighting, blurry, you may not be able to see to even really figure out what it is. Low resolution, for instance. So in this case, for example, you'll see the blade here is rather damaged. This is something you kind of want to know before you buy. It doesn't necessarily have to be an obstacle to buying. You may want this sword anyway, but knowing that it is damaged and how that influences its potential value if you want to resell, or even its value if you just want to keep it, you're still spending money, that's really important. So does the auction offer multiple pictures from different angles with all the details, and also talking about the description? Is it clear and comprehensive? Does it mention defects, or does it only say saber for sale, for instance? So these are things you need to check. The second thing you need to do for every lot you want to participate in, and this is more important the higher the price is and the more you want the lot, because there is where you can really make big and costly mistakes, is did you do your research? I'm holding this because if you saw the video on this that is a fake Victorian sword, you'll know that the mistake, one of the mistakes I did in this case was not doing my research. So did you do your research? Did you check it out? Did you spend 10 minutes looking at the details, research the hilt, the grip, the blade if you can see it? Are there resources that mention, can you see around that it's a sword that's easily faked? Are there stores that sell new replicas? These are all information that for most swords you can find really quickly with a rather cursory kind of search. So invest those 10, 15 minutes, half an hour in every sword you want to bid on to not make a mistake down the line. Now, another point you really need to check with yourself is, am I having doubts? And this can be at the start or during the auction as well. Keep monitoring yourself for kind of red flags regarding how sure you are of the purchase. So lots of times you're browsing auctions in the evening and you're going to save a whole bunch of swords. You're going to have like a list of hundreds of swords that you're watching, and you kind of like them, of course, otherwise you wouldn't have saved them. But do you really want to buy them when the time comes? You want to make sure you have that answer before you click on the bid button. And this answer can change with as the auction goes on. So for instance, let's assume this sword starts at a 50 euro starting price. And for 50 euro, I may think, yeah, I want it. I don't need it. It's not like something I want to keep forever, but it'll be cool to handle, clean, check out. Let's assume in the auction, it goes up to 150. In that 100 euro interval, your mindset can easily change. And out of 150, it may not be worth anymore. You may not want it that much. So make sure you monitor this in your head all the time as the auction goes ahead. And it seems obvious. You think, of course, I'll stop when it's too much. But with auctions, it doesn't happen that way. Yeah, you really fall into bidding wars very easily. Another point you want to make sure of is, what is the auction vibe? This is something that you kind of gain with experience. It's not something you can pinpoint or objectively determine, but you'll get a feel of how the auction is going. You'll see if a lot of the lots are going with a lot of overbids, which means that on average things may be undervalued. You'll see if bids are a little bit slow. You'll see if people aren't buying like damaged or non-pristine things. All of these considerations, and they'll come as you do more and more auctions, as you participate in more and more auctions. But all these considerations should kind of give you a vibe. And this general vibe can inform the decisions you make on specific lots. Now, another point I just lightly touched on just a minute ago is, am I willing to overbid? This is something you need to have as defined as possible a boundary for. You'll cross it for sure, because that's just in the nature of things, but having a clear boundary avoids you really kind of falling down the deep end of overbidding. And if the answer is yes, I'm willing to overbid, how much are you willing to overbid? Have very clear steps in your kind of auction process. I mentioned at the start the importance of having a priority list. And this is good when you get into the auction, so you're prepared, you're mentally prepared for what is coming and going. But as the auction unfolds, a few things, maybe if you're lucky, you'll have bought, and a bunch of things you'll have missed. You really need to ask yourself, how high is this on my priority list? And that question will help you understand if it's worth bidding or not on a certain object. Don't get caught into FOMO and, oh, I didn't buy anything, it's getting to the end of the auction, I'll just pick up these last 3 swords just because I saved them. Maybe you don't want them, maybe they're too expensive, maybe you don't need them. So make sure you have a clear answer to that question as well. And almost on the opposite sense of the FOMO aspect I'm saying, is, can an extra purchase, even if I don't need it, offset costs? So if hypothetical shipping costs are like 300 euro for 1 sword, that could potentially double the purchasing price of the sword. If you buy 5 swords at the same shipping price or similar shipping price, you can offset that cost and kind of spread it across more swords. So this is tool you can use strategically. It can be dangerous, but you can use it to kind of lower the cost of shipping per sword. And of course, don't buy something you don't want or don't care for. So I hope this video will be helpful for any of you approaching auctions. Let me know if you agree, disagree, what other tips you would have done differently, and obviously feel free to download the document and use it as you see fit. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.